Oh,
Hello.
Here we are. Hello.
We're live. Welcome to the first InSession of 2023. We hope the year has been kind to everybody, and we have a cat, and we also, more importantly, we have Darien Brito with us, and we're very excited about that. I think everybody in the chat probably knows Darian, but I will introduce him. He's a creative coder and audiovisual artist who works with sound, images, and algorithms to create some really mind-blowing multisensory experiences. And Darian's also been very prolific and generous in creating tools for the TouchDesigner community, like TD Neuron, the zero-point cloud merger, the Cellular automata, and of course TD Morph that we're going to be looking at in depth today. So welcome, Darian.
thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Very excited to share this.
Yeah, we've been wanting to have you on InSession, or I've been at least wanting to have you on InSession for years now, since TD Morph, since I first met you, actually, a couple of years ago, before the pandemic in Amsterdam with Roy and Tim, and that session that we had there. So that was a great time there. But I've been intrigued by all your work and background too. So we'll get into that with throughout our discussion.
So
Sure,
since before we had InSession, you already wanted him on InSession.
Wanted him on session. Yeah, you predate InSession. And a quick shout out here. As you will notice, we have a new and improved look. And we'd like to give a quick shout out to Roy Gerritsen, who originated this look for another thing that we are going to be releasing in about a month or so, which is an educational resource. So we're looking good because of Roy here. And also, I mean, Marcus did the whole setup.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I bastardized it a little bit, perhaps. Sorry, Roy. But I hope it's okay. So anyway.
It's good to us. So Darian, back to you.
Yes.
Maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction. I mean, your background is you were trained as a classical musician, and when you write a composer. So and then here you are. So how did that kind of?
Well, I can tell you a succinct story about it. So when I was a kid, I had a friend in the school who he was the cool kid, right? He had the long hair and he was older than me, and he had a rock band, and I was still a child, like maybe 10, 11. And one time I went to a concert and he was playing, and then he told me, hey, I have a violin, and why don't you learn it and you can play in my band? And he was quite an interesting, he was quite an interesting guy as well. He was doing this rock thing, but he liked classical music, and he also gave me my first album, which was, I mean, I had it in my home, but when your parents tell you to do things, you tend not to listen to them. So this time it was a friend, and he gave me an album of, I remember it was the Requiem, Mozart, and Bach, some organ works, and then I brought them home. And I don't know, it probably was the combination of trying to look after him and the whole thing, but I immediately fell in love with it and just went crazy. I don't know how that happened, but
Wow.
my dad could see my passion to learn this instrument, so he took me to the conservatory, and he told me, if you're going to do it, you have to do it seriously. So I want to sign you in, and you will have to come to lessons and so on. Wow. And I think he regretted it after 3 years, because I decided to not go to high school anymore.
Yes. Oh. Really?
Yeah.
You can do that?
Well, I did. I didn't. I stopped going, and they told me, okay, you can stop going, but you have to finish high school somehow. And then I decided to do it on a distance. That's a possibility in Ecuador. So it's like homeschooled. And I basically did that myself. And that was a great experience, you know, to do it myself and to have this other responsibility of going to the conservatory, because that teaches you some discipline to practice things and so on.
Yeah.
And I did that for many years, and that was my passion, to be a violinist, classical violinist. And then at some point I was I started to compose more for fun than for any serious ambition. But then when I was graduating, I won a prize from the conservatory to choose something to do after, and they would pay for me like a little scholarship. And part of the prize also I got to premiere one of my pieces with an orchestra, the orchestra for youth in Ecuador. So then I thought maybe that's something I can do, you know. And yeah, long story short, then I wanted to be a violinist, but my age when I started, you know, classical music is really, really demanding. So you have to start very early. I also had an accident on my finger that prevented me from keep playing. And that was very discouraging. So I was very depressed for a long time. And then my dad again told me, you did this for so long. Now it's already so long. You have to keep doing something with music. Then I applied to composition because I had already the interest. And that I ended up here where I live now. I'm originally from Ecuador, but I live in the Netherlands. And I did the bachelor in composition. But what happened is that when I was in my third year, I discovered modular synthesizers. I had never seen those before in my life, never, you know. In Ecuador, everything is like some years behind, so I never got to experience even an electronic music concert. And because of my training of classical music, which was very strong in terms of theory, so I had a lot of free time. I got a lot of exemptions for the theory lessons, so I could spend most of my time just playing with those machines.
Wow.
And yeah, I just went crazy about them. So kept doing it, and at some point decided that it was more for me to do this kind of thing, electronic music, than to compose really like string quartets and stuff. So I switched for the master's. I did a master's in it's called sonology. It's a great study here in Holland, and it's very unique. It's all about the artistic, scientific, technical study of sound that is made with electronics, digitally or analogic. And in the meantime, my master thesis was about generative systems and how to use them for generating sound.
In what systems? Pardon me?
Generative
systems. Okay.
Generative systems. Yeah. And in order to see if I was programmed incorrectly, if I was doing that correctly, I started to program graphics. But it was not because I had any interest on graphics, but it was just to see if they worked correctly. Because it's much easier to debug with your eyes than with sound. Let's say if you make a fractal oscillator, you can never hear that. You know, you need to see it to see if it works.
Cool.
And that's how I started to do computer graphics. And people started asking me to program things for them in the conservatory. And then after I graduated, I kind of got a lot of gigs programming things for people. And it was also the moment I discovered TouchDesigner. So I decided to go deep into it. I needed also means to survive, and that was giving me some income. So I just pursued that. And yeah, before I knew it, I was so deep down there in the rabbit hole that now I'm basically a TouchDesigner freelancer for some years already. And and apparently I'm also something of a visual artist too, but I don't consider myself really that. I'm more like a musician. I see still myself as a musician or a creative coder, and I do of course some visuals too. So it's like more audiovisual, I would say, not really, because I don't come at all from the visual arts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing how your interest in exposure to modular synthesizers, kind of your gateway into digital tools and to graphics. I mean, it was quite a hop from classical music to a bit of electronic, then graphics and coding. So it's really a very versatile bunch of career steps that you've taken, and it all kind of hangs together.
Yeah. And it led you to us, and we're really happy about that. So thank you. So before we knew you, your first piece, you actually worked with on the remote sense dome piece with Johnny Knox, and you were doing the audio for his visual. And I remember this piece, and we actually met at IX at the Dome conference in Montreal.
Right.
So that's that was before. That was in fact before the Amsterdam session.
Yeah, exactly. That was in 2017 or something.
Yeah, so this was kind of the spark, right? Like, I mean, this was where you first encountered TouchDesigner, or?
Well, I was already doing some little experiments for fun, but when I worked with Johnny, what he was doing for me was so mind-blowing. I was really impressed. Oh, how does this work? How do you put it together in such a scale? What software can do that? Because I was using before Max MSP and Jitter to do the audiovisuals that I was doing, and I could never possibly imagine to do something like this because of a lot of issues that at the time at least Jitter had. So limitations and so on. Of course, my knowledge also was not very developed. And then talking with Johnny, he explained to me how it works, and he showed me touch and everything you can do with point clouds and so on. And then I decided, yeah, I have to really learn this thing. And then when we performed together, that was so cool. I wrote all the music. It was running live. I wrote it in Super Collider, and it was really easy to connect the two things. That was one of the major things that drove me to Touch, the ability to connect anything with such ease. That's an outstanding thing, you know. And of course, the visual capabilities. So indeed, that was kind of the sparks that
first one. Yeah.
put me in the path. Yeah.
Excellent. And then your very first AV performance is Strange Attractors, and that was that 2018, 2019?
Yeah, I think that was in 2018 or 19. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's influenced by chaotic systems, and it's, I mean, for your first AV piece, this is incredibly elegant and complex looking work. So can you talk about it, and also your experience, I guess, working with TouchDesigner for your first AV live?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, the chaotic systems have always been fascinating to me. I was doing a lot of oscillators with chaotic signals when I was doing sonology, and I wanted to translate that into graphics. And then by this time, I was playing a lot with Touch, of course, and I wanted to put it to the test to see if I learned enough to make it live. And it was the first time also that I began thinking more in terms of an audiovisual piece than the music first and then the graphics. And the process was relatively quick and straightforward. I didn't have much issues to put it together. Luckily, also because I had a very good background dealing with problems from other software that didn't really do what I wanted. So my frustrations were really helpful in making this because it was so easy. Really, I don't remember it being hard to put together. So, and then I played it live, and it was fantastic because, like I said, it was so easy to scale up. The original version was for two very large screens, and I was playing this live with Ableton and some Super Collider code on the back. And I remember when I played maybe in 10 or 12 festivals, and every time, of course, they have different setups. And already then, I was also programming in Python to make it adaptive. Yeah. And that was so cool, you know, press one button and have a new show in a new setup, and super nice. So
amazing. So you were creating the sound as well as the image for that, and with some small tie-in between the two.
Yeah, I mean, basically OSC for the communication. That's all I needed. Mm-hmm. And the sound, it reacts to triggers from Touch, and it's not all generative. So I do it halfway in between. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of layers that are pre-composed, and on top of it, I do my live sound as well.
Incredible. Two hands, right? Just two hands.
Yeah, yeah.
And so where was that performed?
Yeah, I played in many places. It was here in Holland. I played it in there was a version I played even in Russia. There was a trip there. I played it in Belgium, and yeah, I don't remember. It was quite some shows. Yeah.
So we were talking yesterday about how you connected with Tim and Roy Gerritsen, and basically Richard Burns came to do a workshop in Amsterdam. Was that it? And then Stanislav, and you took that workshop, and that's how it all kind of.
Yeah, it was Richard Burns came to Rotterdam. That was the first place, and there was a workshop, and at that time there was not many resources to learn about touch online, and also it was such a luxury to have a workshop with someone who was as knowledgeable as Richard, because you could see Richard was all over the place in the TouchDesigner page. So I said, yeah, I must go. But at the time, maybe when you talk with Tim and Roy, they will tell you a story. But at the time, I only had like a desktop computer, like a big one. And I didn't, because I was studying, I couldn't buy a fancy anything. So I had to put that big desktop in a suitcase and carry it with me to Rotterdam. And I was the only one carrying this big thing.
No, that's always impressive. Yeah, when we do our workshops, we always have people who come with their desktops, and we give them a gold star, because that's really that's pretty impressive.
There's always one in the crowd that has a humongous machine.
Yeah.
Props to them for doing it.
Sure. It was both a workout and the workshop was good. And also, funny thing, when I met Roy, it was that every time, for some reason, I did 2 workshops in Rotterdam. I think Roy was in both of them as well. We talked a little bit, but we didn't really talk much. So I remember from him, but we didn't really connect. But I think everybody in the workshops had the impression that I'm an alcoholic, because to both workshops, I arrived like really hungover. And it was just a coincidence. So, so it was funny.
Okay, well, we'll definitely keep that in mind for future.
It's just a coincidence, huh?
Yeah. So when did you and Tim start collaborating on TD Neuron? Because you ended up giving that amazing workshop at the summit, which was TD Neuron, A Gradient Descent into Madness, which I think was the best title of of that particular summit. So
right. Well, it was in Stanislav gave a workshop in Amsterdam, and Tim and Roy were there. They organized this workshop, and that's when I first talked to them more seriously. Let's say we connected a bit more, and especially at the time, especially with Tim, because this workshop was about shaders. That was something I was always interested in, and we talked with Tim, and we both had this interest, and also many similar interests about mathematics and machine learning, this kind of stuff. And then there was the TouchDesigner Summit in Berlin, and we met there together, and we decided, I told him, hey, I'm trying to learn more about machine learning, and Tim as well. And we decided to do a project together to learn it. And it started really as an experiment, and we went the hardcore way, doing it with shaders because of the parallel processing. Also a good way to learn shaders, by the way. So then we started like that, and it just kept escalating. It was one of the best ways to learn this thing, because we ran into so many issues. I learned a lot from Tim as well. He's a great programmer and super smart person. So yeah, that was a great collaboration. And then you saw the workshop in the summit as well.
And maybe just it is what you built with TD Neuron is your training data in it, and you're letting it then solve your problems. Like you're literally built the whole machine learning thing from the ground up.
Yeah, that was one of the things we wanted to do, to make everything from scratch. So there's absolutely no libraries, absolutely nothing. So we also had to learn the mathematics of it, a little bit of calculus and linear algebra, and that's where we started to. We're still doing that. Actually, Tim is obsessed with mathematics. I'm also, to a lesser degree, trying to keep up.
Yeah.
But yeah, indeed, it was all from scratch.
There's
so the neural network is really compute shaders?
It's all, yeah, compute shaders mainly.
Wow.
And nice examples online. I didn't grab that video, but there are these example videos where you guys taught it to count, or basically
Oh yeah,
recognize hand signs, things
that's right.
like that.
Yeah, I think that was from the Berlin at Node Institute. The video of you guys doing it live there. That was really good.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
So basically, everything after this was easy, right?
Well, this was a big challenge. Yeah, to do this TD Neuron thing.
So chronologically, upload. This is the opera that you did, the motion tracking and the live visuals. I mean, that's a pretty wild concept. A guy decides to have a digital version of himself uploaded and live through that, which means he has to die, and a lot of people are upset about that. But beyond the plot, I mean, you did some pretty fancy things here as well. The visuals look great. I mean, it looks like an incredible production.
Yeah, I was very happy to join this production. It was with Michel van der Aar. He's a very well-known composer, a very good composer as well from here in Holland, and he invited me to create the system. And it was very challenging because of two main things. One of them is that it all had to be real time, of course, because of the actions on stage. It had to look as if it was being really uploaded and living on the metaverse and all that stuff. And the other thing is that it was the first time that I was asked to do something volumetric, so using many Kinects. I had played with Kinects before, but this was the first time that I had to do something volumetric. So I had to put it together somehow. And I remember even talking to Marcus back then. We did a little call. I don't know if you remember that, trying to figure it out. And then I stumbled upon a solution using a library called Open3D, which is great. And that I put it together and it worked. So that's indeed the Azure merger that I released. And the production itself, it was super nice. It was a very professionally put together production, big, so they had a good budget, so they could do a film. It was premiered in really good theaters. We played, for example, in the Armory in New York. That was an amazing, yeah,
incredible.
Was an amazing experience to see things on this scale. And I use TD Morph a lot. Basically, the whole system is based on TD Morph, so that's a good connection. Yeah.
Incredible. How did you connect with the director?
Michel, we knew each other from before. He asked me to do a video player. He had asked me some years ago. And I built it back then with another software, with Jitter. So I think he kept me in mind, luckily, and that's how.
Great. So, generative art collection you made that has been published on the art blocks. So you got 1024. Is that it?
Yeah.
All sort of coming from a simple pixel shader.
Yeah.
They're beautiful pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was it's an interesting story too for me with these NFTs. I have a bit of a, I wouldn't say love and hate, but I'm very critical of a lot of things that happen in the crypto space. I'm not really someone who believes blindly in all that stuff, like I see a lot of people do. I'm very skeptical still about about the ethos of it. But I got involved with NFTs, generative art in general, from this other branch, which Artblocks is part of, which is quite a nice stream. So it's all for artists, and the challenge here is to make pieces that are made with code, obviously, and they have to run on the chain. So it's not a video or it's not an image, it's really just code that runs when you basically go on to the link. And what people buy is called a mint, and I don't even know what they're going to buy, and they also don't know it. They only know when they press mint, and then the code generates the piece.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Exciting. And now you're actually going back to sort of two-dimensional part and making metal and paper prints from these.
Yeah, indeed. That was a first for me. I never thought I would do that. So it was quite exciting to see something I made like in paper or in a metal print. And that was totally new. I'm still dealing with the whole logistics of it, learning from it. And I had a good friend, graphic designer, who suggested the materials and all that stuff because it's a science on itself, right? So that was very cool.
And is it the same premise? You don't know what you're going to print until you hit print?
No, they know.
You know, okay.
You know already, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Amazing. I mean, you are very, very prolific in the 6 years that you've been doing TouchDesigner. So many incredible projects. So let's look a little bit at the work you've been doing, working with Tim and Roy, YFX Labs. Like, you guys have done some very large and incredibly, the word I keep wanting to remember and never remember, but
yeah. I mean, I think I definitely want to mention YFX Lab. And I don't want to say too much about it without Tim and Roy, of course. But from my experience working with them, one thing I want to say is that I feel so lucky to have people around that, first of all, have this level of knowledge and this level of creativity, who I can learn from a lot every time we do a project. Is for me a great learning experience, and they're wonderful people. So it doesn't even feel like a job. It's more like we're just having fun putting things together. And what I do with them is basically, it's quite diverse. And I mainly do sometimes, for example, for that project that you see there, the first one, Amaze, I helped building the backend system for the controlling everything. And I did some of the, I managed the sound of one of the locations, the second thing with the pylons there. I put that together with some custom-made code. And I should give a shout out as well to Dave and Gabe, who gave us some advice on the specialization part. And I also helped with some of the visuals and the installations there, particularly the ones that use the Kinect. So yeah, it was diverse in this case. And that tends to be the case with all the other projects too. So basically, when something needs to be done and I can help, I'll do.
Just from looking at this, how many rooms are in here? Like, this is a huge amount of different content. So I'm just trying to gauge what the space is actually like.
Oh yeah, it's a big space. I think if I remember correctly, there's about 8 or 9 rooms. And Tim and Roy, they did an amazing job, like conceptually thinking everything together, putting it, making it work. And we have a team of maybe 6-7 people. Every person doing different parts of the installations, and at the end we had to put it all together with one unifying system, which was, of course, everything is made in TouchDesigner. Maybe one of the rooms I think is not made in Touch, but everything else is.
Yeah. So there was an overall show structure with a kind of timeline with kind of independent things within that space that get turned on and off based on some kind of a show control timing.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. So okay. So were you involved in that part of it as well, the overall structure?
Yeah. I had to build sort of the communication system that tells each location when things should happen, and it receives messages. And I think we use MQTT for this, if I remember right, to sync it up.
No. Oh,
Yeah, really impressive.
amazing.
And it's really nice working like this, where basically you have the job, but you bring in people from the community and you create a really good team. And it's in a way, it's more about working together than actually, doing this job for a client. I guess that's part of it, but it's
Yeah, I
very
mean,
nice.
absolutely. And I must say, I really love these guys. They are some of the most brilliant people I've ever met, and I'm really lucky to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Is Amaze running now in Amsterdam?
Yeah, it is, I think, still running. Yeah.
Great. So it must have opened about a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago.
Right, yeah, it's been on for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
I would think they do sometimes updates to it, or is it a fairly running for now and that?
Oh yeah, as we were talking last week, I think they had to fix it now. Something happened to the server, so they had to fix it. I think it was a hardware problem because it runs nonstop for years now. So
Wow.
definitely updates need to be made.
So is there anything that interests you more than anything else, Darian? I mean,
Um, no, I like to be interested in things. I tend to just go with whatever seems interesting at the moment and just do it. Yeah.
yeah. And you had a pretty busy January, right?
Oh yeah. That was busy as hell indeed. Yeah, every day.
Is that what we're looking at right now? No, that's still no, that's YFX. But
But that's my UI not updating somehow.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
that's darienbrito.com.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to talk a little bit about the telescope stuff, or?
Can we or should we not?
Oh, okay. We better leave that for the next one.
We'll leave it till the next one.
And
But we
then
could talk a
the
little bit about
telescopers are in the house.
the cellular automata.
All right. Yeah. Well, cellular automata has been something that I'm fascinated by since I was 14 or 15 when I first saw it in a cover of all places. I think it was a poetry book even. It had nothing to do with science or anything, but something about them really caught my attention. And ever since then, I wanted to learn how does it work, because of course I saw a lot of simulations online, but I didn't know how to program back then. So it looked like magic to me. Like, how is it possible that there's this artificial life? And so I kept this fascination, and I decided to just do a lot of experiments with them. Now that I mean, when I learned to program, I decided I should start with that, do a lot of experiments that I always wanted to do, learn how it works. And I still find them extremely fascinating. So at some point, I decided probably there's people who are fascinated by them too. So
Sure.
I wanted to make some tutorials. I put them online for people to learn. And I did two series of tutorials. One of them is all in up to 2D cellular automatas, and the other one was with TDSW and the Tokyo TouchDesigner Study Group, I think it is called.
Yeah.
Where I also show how to do 3D CAs. Yeah.
Nice. And just a couple of days ago, I reposted on Instagram Oto Dojo, who actually did a piece using your tutorials. So we can't, you and everybody else in the community who so amazingly creates all this learning material for everybody else.
Oh, I saw this one. It's great. Yeah. I like this one.
Yeah. It's well done.
Yeah.
Yep. So guys, should we start talking about TD Morph, or how
It's probably a good time to do that, yeah. Definitely. Maybe just to understand whoops, that's the wrong screen. I'm sorry.
Good animation though.
You're just showing off the animation.
Yeah.
Come on, do it again.
That's
Gratuitous
okay. Yeah,
animation.
do it again. Come on.
I'll work on that a little bit more to make it less distracting. Yeah, it would be interesting to see, I'm not sure if we should look at your screen and maybe get a general introduction for everybody who hasn't seen it yet. or
Yeah.
for people who have seen it last in Berlin in 2020, for example?
Sure. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
give
yeah.
you a quick walkthrough the
That'd
thing.
be great.
All right. Let me start by going here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the preset manager. This is basically the core of TD Morph. So everything in TD Morph is based upon this little component. And the idea with it is that it's a lightweight component, is UI-less. It just works like every other node in Touch, so it doesn't really have a functional UI to control it. Beyond these parameters, of course, it's designed also to be fully modular. So the idea is that you have one of these components and you can plug it into any other of the TouchDesigner tools there are. Everything is decoupled, and you can do that. And the idea with it is, of course, to allow people who want to build systems on top of it to easily grab it for their own purposes. So I really try to make it as simple as and clear and open as possible, so that it can be integrated into other people's projects. And yeah, how it works. Maybe, I don't know if I should mention the difference between TD Morph 2 and 3. Maybe yes, because it's crucial. So one major difference is that in TD Morph 2, in order to assign the paths for the operators that the preset manager is going to affect, you had to put some input tables here. And now it's different. I made an editor window here that you can use to simply just drag and drop here the operator that you want to use. When you put it here, it will grab the path. And here you can selectively, per operator, say if you want it to look at the built-in or custom parameters, and also filter out the parameters you want to grab from here. So I'm going to make now, I'm not going to talk about this yet. I'm just going to show what it does, because maybe that's more appealing. So basically now this noise is associated to this preset manager, and the preset manager allows me to, let's start with randomization. So I can at will randomize some parameters I decide from this operator. And I have decided that in the filter options for when I had this window, and here you can see I decided to take the period, the amplitude, and everything that has TY, TX, TY, or TZ. Now, this syntax is also a little bit different than TouchDesigner syntax. I put here the difference, and it's because in TouchDesigner we have a pattern matching. And in pattern matching, you can use, for example, this symbol to say all, but I'm using here regular expressions for TD Morph. The reason why is because I found myself a lot of times in the situation where I had to do a bit more complicated references to parameters that I could not find a way to do with the normal pattern matching in Touch. So I decided to just do regular expressions. They can get really complicated, but at least the most common things are not that different. So here I put an example of how to do the same with regular expressions. And anyways, when you are connected, so this noise is connected, what you can do now is control it. So if I randomize it, then it will go and attack, let's say, or go link to those parameters that are set in the filter. And now I can do randomization by pressing one button. So all of them get randomized. You can see them here. Or you can morph them. And morphing just means to move from one place to the other in a certain amount of time via some interpolation curve. And here you can do that controlling the time, for example. I want a transformation of 3 seconds. So I put the time and I morph it, and it moves smoothly in that period. And you can also choose different types of interpolation. So there's all these curves that you can use. For example, S curve, and if I do it, now it will do an is out and is in. So it's a tool, first of all, that allows you to do this kind of exploration. Okay, so that would be the very basic explanation of this. Let me see if I go to the next thingy I had. Yeah, the flexibility part. Now, what I want to say is, in TD Morph 3, I made a little bit more of an effort to make it much more flexible, so that you can connect not only one type of parameters to a preset manager, which was the case in TD Morph 2, now is much more flexible and powerful because you can do the following. So if you want to connect some operators, you have, of course, your editor. You drag and drop them here. I will do that as well later, but first I want to just show the possibilities. And as you see here, I hope you can see, it's a bit small. You can give different filtering options for each one of the parameters or each one of the operators, let's say, that you drop here. That was not possible before. Before you had to use different preset managers if you wanted to do something like that. Now you can have one preset manager and drag and drop as many operators as you want, each one with their own filtering options and each one with their own custom or built-in flags. So that's really a major difference between TD Morph 2 and 3. These controls here allow you to also to jump quickly to wherever the nodes are. So if you press D, you will go there, and it's easy to just inspect things. And yeah, if you do this, now you see that. Oh, I closed it. Sorry. Now you see that I am targeting different parameters per node. So in the case of the first one, I'm saying take everything that starts with a T. In this case of the second one, take everything that starts with an H, the amplitude and the offset, and here basically the TXYC, XYC, and SXYC. And if I do the same as I was doing before, all of them change differently, of course, because they have different filters associated with them. And yeah, the same as before applies. You can do smoothly or just jump. All right. And now I want to show you a little bit more of how you would maybe use it in a real application. I made this little thing. It's some multi-scale through shed patterns. And then the way I would recommend to use it, especially if you just want to get your hands on it and start playing around, is to first make a custom parameters for your operator with parameters that you just want to apply the information to. In that way, you don't need to even think about regular expressions, and you can just use the default option, which is select all the parameters, and it will just do its thing without you having to think too much about these filtering options. So I would recommend that if you want to start playing. But if you already know how it works, then yeah. Now, as you see here, I'm filtering out. I'm not taking any of the colors, and I'm not taking the resolution either. And what I did for this one is I made some presets, because that's also something you can do directly on this preset manager. So let's say I'm gonna jump to preset 0, for example, and this is stored in storage here in this preset manager. And I'm gonna jump to preset 1, and you can set it, but you can also morph between two presets. So now we will just morph. Now it looks jiggly because there's a seed option here, so that's why it looks jiggly, but it should be smooth if that doesn't have it. And to create a new preset is as simple as just going here and say store when you have something new. So let's say I move something here that I want to change, maybe the angle, I don't know, this, different seed, and you simply go here and say store. It automatically will update the presets numbers that you have. So now you have preset 3, and if you do a different one, for example, just randomization, I want a new one, go here, store, and now you have 4. And to set them up, you go back here, and here are your presets. So you can just go to them, or like I said, you can just morph. All right. Now, one more thing that is different from TD Morph 2 is that TD Morph 3 is way less grumpy than before. So it's going to try to help you instead of just complaining when there's an error. So let me give you an example of that. For example, now this preset manager is associated with this content option here, as you can see. Now I'm going to create a second content, and I'm going to drag and drop it here to add it to this preset manager. So you just drag and drop it, and it will fetch the path and stuff. Okay, I'm going to take everything from both of them. I don't care. So I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to see for example, I'm going to store a new preset. Let's just set things randomly for both of them. And I'm maybe going to do this parameter so you can see I'm changing things. So I'm making something random, and I'm going to store a new preset. So that will be stored in preset 5. Now, in the past, if you had a preset that had certain parameters, and you, for some reason, delete one of them, that would be a problem, and it will not work anymore. But now it's trying to be helpful. So let me see. If, for example, I go now to preset 3, I go there. In preset 3, I didn't have yet my content 2. So preset manager just simply ignores whatever it cannot find and just does the job that it should do. So that's pretty neat. That's an improvement as well from before. It doesn't now matter what you have in each state. It will just selectively do what it should do. But now, if you go to preset 4, which has both of them, then of course that will work. So it will jump, no problem. But let's see what happens if I delete one of the parameters here. If I delete parameter 3, now preset 4 it should give me an error because that doesn't exist anymore. So if I do that, now TD Morph tells you, wait a minute, parameter 3 has been removed or is invalid. And it's asking you if it should remove it from the database. So if you say yes, TD Morph is just simply going to delete the data that it shouldn't be there anymore, and it just keeps going as usual. So now you're in preset 4, and no problem whatsoever. So that's a major improvement as well from TD Morph 2.
Darian, a quick question.
Yes.
Rigato asks if it's possible to add parameters after making presets and still use the old presets.
Absolutely. Now that's also an option. You can keep adding things. So let me add now here some other parameters, param 3, param 4. Indeed, that was another problem with TD Morph 2. So now if I do this and I set parameter 4 or parameter 0, nothing breaks, still works. And now I can, of course, store a new preset. That will be preset 6. And if I go to preset 5, if I go there, then everything works as expected. So let me move this a little bit so it's clear. And then I go there, and it's all set. So you dynamically now can add, remove, and TD Morph understands that.
Is there also a possibility then to override a preset, or would the process be to recall an older preset that doesn't have the parameters, then save a new one with the new parameters?
Yeah, so overriding is quite simple. Let's say I go to preset 0, and only this one has preset 0, and let's say I want to change this to be this, or just 0 everything. What you will need to do is simply give the name that you want to override when you're going to store it. So by default, it's now set to an expression that updates the number, but you can simply say now, I want to update preset 0, and then just store it there. So now it has been overwritten. And you can go back to the expression. So now if I go to preset 0, let's move some stuff, it should go now to what I just saved, which is 0. So yeah, there are other options here, but I don't want to talk too much about the options, I think, because all this also I explained on the online videos, and we have to do a lot of talking about the code too. So I'm going to skip some of those things because there's something very exciting I want to share with you about this version of TD Morph, which is the following. Let's say that you are a bit obsessive, like I am, about order, and you want to change things where things are. So let's say I don't like that content is here anymore, and I want to maybe collapse this, want to put it somewhere else. Now it's on base 1, so it's down there. This was not possible before. Now everything will break in TD Morph 2. But luckily, TD Morph 3 understands now that people want to order things sometimes. So what you can do is now simply go here, and under paths, whenever you move the operators associated with it, you can simply click on update. And when you do the update, TD Morph will understand that things have moved. It will search the whole network to find the presets that were the parameters associated with it, And now if you set the preset again, it will still work. And understanding that it's in here now.
So how does it identify the right one, the right new location? Or because you might have several similar things around your network.
Yeah. So how that works is like this. Whenever you have a node associated with the manager, so when you drag and drop it, let me see. So here, when you drag and drop it, then there's a path that gets copied into the memory of Preset Manager. And this will be this path now in content 1. And is the whole path. TD Morph, what it does when you drag and drop it, also creates in storage of the targeted operator. Now it has a storage here. Two things. So it stores, oops, examine. That's the 3. It stores the path, the current path that it has, and it also stores a tag that says TD Morph path. So in this manner, TD Morph, what it does is scans for everything in the network that has this tag, and then filters out the ones associated specifically with this one by comparing the path here with the previously stored path the last time it knew it existed. And then it can match the things and say, okay, this is the one I want, and update it. That's how it works.
So the path, the path and storage on the target operator is updated only from the preset manager side. It doesn't update it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So every time it will override it. So let me now change it. Let me do it even deeper now. So I'm going to put it one level down even.
I see that. So the tag is the path, the previous path.
The tag is just this TD Morph path, so it can find.
Oh.
And the storage, in storage, there's a TD Morph path, which is a string, which is the actual path. So if I now go here and I say update, you can also do it from this UI, right click update. It will update this as well, as you see here. Mm-hmm. And now this is the last known address for this operator. And in that way, you can still find it next time you change it from place to place. And you can do this for even across networks. So if you would copy this preset manager in a new network, and if you would place this in that network, then TD Morph will still be able to find it.
That's brilliant. That's a great thing to be able to manage is people's decisions to move their nodes around and rename them as well.
How does this, question, how does it work if you copy a node and paste it? That now two of them would have the same storage path.
That's true. That I didn't think about, actually. So if I do this, then let's see what happens. Probably both of them are going to be affected.
Which kind of makes sense. I mean, I would see that as a feature.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Let me first update this. Maybe, no, now it finds two of them. So if you do the update, it finds two. So now you can indeed selectively treat them differently. So that still works, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
It's of course because it has a different name. So yeah, that works. Mm-hmm. Let me trigger it to see if it works. Yeah, it should work. Yeah, indeed. So nice. That's nice to see it works.
That kind of answers my question. I was thinking about, why did you use paths instead of like UUIDs or something like this? But yeah, that makes sense. Nice.
Yeah, the UUIDs, they are not persistent across networks, right? Like the next time you open it, it has a different one or something?
Oh, I meant the node IDs change, but or can change. But the if you would give it like a UUID, like generate a UUID per, but I guess the path is enough for that.
Oh yeah, nice. All right. Okay, I hope this is more or less clear, like the differences between TD Morph 2 and why it's different. Yeah. All right, so let me keep on going, unless there's any question. I don't see the chat, so.
There's only comments like, this is dope, man, this is epic, rocket science for my ears. So yeah, there you go.
Nice. That's good. All right.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
All right. So let's now go to see one of the other tools that comes with TD Morph, and that is the scene launcher. All right. So what is the scene launcher? So this is a UI made for queue-based systems. It is purely a front end. So the UI is dumb. That means that the UI doesn't know anything about what is inside of it. It actually takes as an input a preset manager in here. So is the input. And if you take this input out, and it just doesn't do anything, it just forgets everything it had. But if you put the preset manager back in, it will repopulate. And that is because it's just dumb. So it doesn't store really anything about the presets. So that's why it takes it. And what it does, basically, it allows you to create queues in a sequence, which is ideal for example, the opera I did. A lot of the ideas that I integrated in this version come from doing that project. And I can also show you in a bit the network for that project, so you can see how it's structured there. But the idea is that when you're in a performance situation like that, theater or opera, or even a music gig or something, or could be in a presentation or whatever, you may want to have queues. And the queues basically work in this way. When you plug the preset manager into it, it just populates the left column with all the presets that the preset manager has at that moment. You can rename the presets as you wish, and it will alter them in the preset manager if you want. Then let's create, for example, let me just show you, and I create one new after. Here you have these launch options, which launches a scene. So the distinction between this column, which is for presets are created on the preset manager, and the scenes are created on the scene launcher. And the scenes are just placeholders that can target any preset. That is because, for example, in an opera, you tend to have first act, and you have an aria. And then, of course, maybe you have a visual for that aria. And then after 2, 3 scenes after, you go back to the same area with slight variation, but maybe the visuals are the same. So you want to target, again, the same. So for example, in this case, I have a triangle at the first. So if I launch it, I'm now in that scene. Now, if I launch the second scene, it's going to move to preset 1. That's what is targeted here. If you right click on it, you can select any preset you want. So it's going to move now to this. I said square, but it's actually just a rotation. So let me change that to rotate triangle. So yeah, you can change the name of the scenes. You can color code them. That's really handy if you have something like a repetition, as you will see in a second. So let me go to the next one, which is a pentagon, or a hexagon actually. And then if you go to this one, this is the same as the first one. So that's why they are placeholders, because it's not that the preset is this triangle reprise. It's that triangle reprise can contain any of the presets, and you can tell it at will to change to some other. So it's extremely flexible, and it allows you to, during performance, basically, in real time, if the director wants to change, you can easily just right click, change the scene, whatever. So it's super, super easy. So I think that explains it. Now let me show you
the quick
one
question.
more thing.
While the preset manager is generating presets initially, then the scene launcher, where you create the scenes, also stores those things in the preset manager, if I understood that right.
So this one, it stores, the scenes get stored in the scene launcher, but it only the placeholders. No presets are stored there.
No presets. Okay, the scenes, but not the presets.
But the names of the presets are kept there. No.
The names of the presets are always in the preset manager. So everything that has to do with presets are stored here. So if I would change the name of one of the presets, for example, let's say scene 1, then now scene launcher is writing to preset manager, And now preset 0 doesn't exist anymore. So you have to change it to the new name, scene 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
right, but each scene is associated with a preset, right? A target preset. So the scene and scene name and preset name go together in the scene manager. No.
No, a scene name can be anything, and the target can be anything. The only association they have is that any scene can have any target whatsoever, but they are not really correlated in terms of the names.
No, not the name, but okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I understood your question right.
Yeah, like trying to figure out what exactly is stored in the scene manager, the scene names, but you have to know which preset you're going to play. So that's got to be stored somewhere in the scene manager.
Now I see
which preset you play when you play a scene.
Yeah. So what's stored is the name of the preset. That's all it's stored. So
yeah, right.
Indeed, yeah.
And is that done in I see. Okay, you have it in a table here.
It's
right.
A table.
So, and that table is a representation of a dictionary, or is it stored in a table?
It is just a table. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a lister basically.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a couple of scripts and the configuration.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when you drop it, it creates a scene for you. And in the configuration, I can show you the callbacks. Do you see this? I don't think so, right?
Oh, actually, yeah, no. If you open it up in the text,
oh yeah, we have to hold
or something.
Yeah.
We go hardcore here. Okay. So here are all the callbacks for the actions. And all these actions, they refer indeed to that table that is there. So it's just a lister, basically, doing all the work.
So,
yeah.
So can I see the table again?
Yeah.
I want to see what's in it. The that one. So you have color, scene name, the target, right, and then the curve, how you get there. And what's action? Is that kind of what action when you arrive at that scene? What actions it take?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna explain that in a second as well.
Okay, and the lengths and the delay before you start as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I can show that here. So let's say you have some content like here. This is a little scene, it's a rain marching scene, and let's say I want to control my scene. So here is where you will see, for example, the usage of the other things. For example, I have here, I change the curves. When you right click on a curve, you can choose any of the interpolations you want, and you can choose a follow-up action. So the action gets executed once the scene has finished. So once it has been executed, you will do the next action in the queue. And there's all these actions here. You can also trigger them by selecting a row and clicking on these controls. And by the way, you can also control the preset manager with these other controls, which allow you to do the randomization, interpolation, or the change of those properties directly from this UI. So you don't have to go here and click here. So that's also a convenience. But what it will do now, let me just run this little sequence. So if you see, I have different times for each one of them. I have almost all have the same curves except for the last one. I will explain that in a bit. And the actions I have is just next for everything and none for the last one. So let's see what it does now. I'm gonna just execute it. So now it's gonna, it opens a window, then it does a little movement. It does a zoom in. Here you can see where it is in the queue. Now it goes a bit to the left, and then it goes back to start. And then it ends and closes the window. So how is it closing the window? Basically, you can enable scripting here. When you enable scripting, then you have a new column that allows you to type any script that you want here. It's not the most convenient way because it's quite small, of course. So you may have to, put your eyes like this and type the stuff. But you can also write more complex scripts if you just put it here, or something. You can write all the code here and just say run that code. Maybe that's better.
You get past any information like the what the scene name is, or what the and some other information that you can pass into it, like
into the script.
Yeah, like that's specific to the scene itself.
You can, because the script is just any normal whatever you can type in Touch, it will do. So you can just type anything.
So you can pass it the scene name, for instance.
Yeah. If you pass the scene name here to do something, I'm gonna do something kind of silly. I'm just gonna print it. You will have to first know where the scene name is. There's a couple places where you can find it, but one of them is here in the info for this scene launcher. So you can say, for example, print me.scene.par.scene.
Okay.
And then
great.
It should just do it.
Fantastic.
Oh, and there's a mistake here somewhere. No attribute scene. Oh, okay. I think it's because me is not
script or something. Yeah.
Yes, probably maybe not me.
Parent.td Morph module maybe.
Yeah.
As you can see, that's what I was saying. Not the best thing to type stuff, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is that right? Yeah.
And so that's great. It really shows how your architecture is built around components without a UI and parameters on them. And in the parameters, you're not only storing the state of it. Well, the info, you do have info about the whatever the object is. You have info that you can actually pull here. You're actually pulling from a parameter, because you put into a parameter called scene, read only, that's named. So you have that available to anything that calls this thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Perhaps even
pull the duration and so on. Yeah, that's fantastic that you've integrated to the level of relying on parameters and components and keeping information kind of in a place that's very accessible.
Are we already at the wish list section?
Oh, already? Oh my God! Okay.
We need a long section.
No. Hold on. Go ahead.
Write it down.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Nice. I mean, this info also comes from experience dealing with these opera and theater things. Because at some time, of course, these things tend to be time coded. So I needed to know, for example, how long the whole thing takes in frames and in seconds. And it repeated more than once. So I tried to put together things that, in my experience, are useful. And I can imagine there's many other things I might be missing. So definitely.
It's kind of interesting. So we've had internal debates about whether you put read-only info as parameters. I mean, parameters are usually used for controlling things. So you could put that information as a chop or dat table or in a dictionary or in storage somewhere, which you have to access a different way. But it's really convenient to stick things info as parameters on a kind of an info page, and so this is a good example of using that method of putting read-only stuff on the outside of the node in a parameter.
Right. Yeah. Good to hear.
Thumbs up.
Nice. Okay. I think. Well, the rest I think is. Did I already create a scene? Let me just create a scene so it's clear how to do it, because it should be super simple. How you can do it is, let's say I want a different view of this little thing I put here, maybe like this or something.
Which looks very fancy, by the way.
Fancy, nice, thank you. Let me just put here a new preset. So when you have your scene, you don't have to deal with this guy anymore. So that's something nice, because you can just go here, right click, say new preset. It will tell you what name you want to give it. I'm going to say something. whatever. And then it creates this, so it writes it directly on the manager. And then I can add a new scene here. So there's two ways of adding a scene. You can right-click, say New Scene, or you can just drag and drop the preset that you want to use for the scene and put it here. So I'm going to call this one Other, something like that. Put it there. And there it is, automatically assigned the presets. And you can, of course, reorder this. So I can move this one here, so it's not the end. And I want to talk a little bit about the actions too, because this can be really cool as well. So let's say you want to create a little loop. Let's do a loop between these two. So I'm going to say start and then go back to first, and it's going to get stuck there. And it's just going to loop in between those two scenes all the time. And it keeps opening it because, of course, I have an expression that says open. This scripting. So maybe not the best choice for doing the loop. So let's do this one. And you can do this, of course, while it's running too. So that's quite nice. It's very flexible in that sense.
On the back of it, out of interest, are you driving this with a timer chop? This whole process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can show you that as well. Everything runs always from here, the preset manager. And that is the same for every tool I'm going to show. The way it works is there is inside here. I try to write here a little bit if people want to conceptualize it. But in the preset morpher, this is the mechanism. So what is basically happening is an A/B switcher that I use to preload the target parameters and cross between the things that I need to cross. It is indeed a timer chop here. The idea with this is that nothing inside of here cooks at all, ever, unless you say do something. So you don't need to worry that maybe the timer is cooking or any operator really is cooking. Everything is, I make sure that nothing cooks at all if you don't do something like a morph. And basically the timer has a couple of callbacks that operate on the instructions that you give to the class. Then there's a curve generator. This is also a big difference with TD Morph 2. In TD Morph 2, I had here a shader to do all the curves. And the reason for that, I don't know why I did it in a shader. I wanted to be overcomplicated or something. But that created a problem, which is that since memory has to be loaded out of texture to CPU and vice versa, and then it was slower, and also it was not synchronized sometimes with the clocks. So I discovered that the hard way, and I had to fix it real quick in one performance. And I found out that the issue was indeed this loading and unloading of memory. So I decided now to lock everything to the CPU and do it like this with just with a script that computes the curves in here. And that works now really well, and it's also every time is perfectly synced. There's no hiccups whatsoever. So that solved the issue. And then how it writes the things is that there's two mechanisms going on. It's a little bit complicated how it does it, because there's two types of parameters that can be triggered from TD Morph. So those are the interpolatable parameters and the non-interpolatable ones. Mm-hmm. For the interpolatable ones, I use this structure, and it's just one single that writes directly to those parameters. And I learned a trick from Greg on one of the calls we did before today, and this was super cool.
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, one of the deep secrets of TouchDesigner.
Yeah, I had no idea you could do that, so it's much better than using this stupid set attribute that is kind of slow.
Yeah. Then that's just for everybody, that's referring to a parameter by its string name. You can just put par in square brackets, this string name, and then you can get it that way instead of, so you can compose things by strings as opposed to using that set attribute thing.
I wish I could make this bigger.
Darian, does TD Morph 3 work in older versions of TouchDesigner?
I didn't try it.
Oh, just say no. There's no
I think
annotates,
no.
first of all.
I think no.
All right, there you go.
Just say no.
I think no, yeah. So this is the trick, yeah, to do it like if it's a dictionary, and that's very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you decide if you want to have a parameter to be interpolatable or if you want to step it from one value to the new one?
Yeah, that's the interesting part. Oh, yeah, I cannot show you here. I have to look at it here. Okay. So there's a couple steps that take care of that, but in essence is the following. I have here a definition of what I call standard parameter types, and these are all the things that can be affected, that you can change, let's say. And then there is an addition of two objects that are special, the menu and string menu, because these two are not interpolatable. I don't want them to be interpolatable. Doesn't make sense to me. And if you notice, the standard ones doesn't contain anything like strings, because obviously you cannot interpolate a string. You cannot interpolate an operator address or a script. So that's not part of the standard definition. And afterwards, what I do is I have two different types of calls. Let me see where that is. Yeah, so yeah, here. Set special values sets the non-interpolatable values to some given state, and basically checks in this run special value function, which should be up here somewhere. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, let me do something because it's very hard. I'm just going to find the line number using my Sublime text, and then I jump back into this, yeah? Standard. Oh, yeah, there it is. So that's 368. Okay. So we see line 368 here. Or here, yeah, here you can see standard. There is a check to see if it's part of the standard definition and if it's not a locked parameter. This will make sense when I show you the last tool. And it's different than this other one up here called set attribute parameter properties, which checks only the randomizable list. So in this way, it can distinguish which ones it should interpolate and which ones it shouldn't interpolate. And for the ones that shouldn't interpolate, it creates a special stack that gets executed with a run command. So let me see if I can find that as well. So that is called the special params stack. I call them special. Those are the ones that don't interpolate. And that is in the line 233 here, set special values. So this one sets the non-interpolatable values, and the way it does it is, basically checking here if it has this TD Morph element attribute in it. So I write to them beforehand what type of parameter it is, and if it's, for example, a string or an op type, it acquires this attribute in the drag and drop parameter. So TD Morph knows that it shouldn't try to do that with that one, and it adds them to the special stack. And once the special stack is full, what happens is that in Morph preset, that is line 479, here, then first it writes all the normal things, and then here at the end it does this set special values function. So that's how it knows to do it, basically.
I have a suggestion. Well, you've probably thought of this too. I found in the past, in doing transitions like this, you want to, for toggles and for menus, you sometimes want to do the switch at the beginning or the end of your morph, but also sometimes you want to do it somewhere in the middle, sometimes randomly in the middle.
Oh yeah.
So if you had a 0 to 1 value stored somewhere of when to do the switch, that would be kind of useful.
I have that already in the other
it.
tool I showed. Yeah. But I don't have the option to do it in the middle or somewhere between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
Because I think it will be expensive to check on every cook, on every step, if it's approaching that. If you have 100 ones.
Yeah, you could probably do it. There's probably a way of doing it that isn't that expensive.
Yeah.
It might involve another timer or something, but I'm sure you can do it as a transition some kind of transition component.
Yeah, that's a good
without
right.
actually running script every frame.
Yeah.
It's you could build a channel with 0 going up to 1 at different times and over the length of some number of samples, and do it chop execute when it goes from 0 to 1 and run the command to change the value once you get to 0 to 1. Anyways, I'm not explaining myself very well, but it's pretty doable, I bet, without much code.
I think I understand. Yeah, you have a second clock, and then the second clock looks at those special parameters.
Yeah.
And you can trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as an extra attribute for your interpolation per.
Yeah. Definitely, that's a good one. Yeah. I mean, now you have the option to choose at start or on end. But yeah, this would be nice also to say arbitrarily anywhere you want, of course. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see. Do you have any other questions about this one?
I'm good.
Yeah. Also, the chat is good?
The chat is good, yeah. There's a bit of hellos and things like that.
I have a few questions, but I'll leave it to the end.
Okay. So let me keep on going. Now let me show you what did I show you? Oh yeah, already both. Let me show you now the parameter morpher. How do you pronounce parameter? Parameter? How do you say it?
Both parameter.
Oh yeah. Okay, we always have a debate about that, and I never know. All right. So this is the parameter morpher. In the past, it used to be how TD Morph was. It was basically TD Morph was this, and inside of it, it contained all the tools. But now I split everything to make things lighter and better, basically. So I call them now parameter morpher. And I show you here all the supported parameters that you can grab from locations. For example, I have this tester operator, and the parameter morpher, it serves a different purpose than the previous UI. This is really made to explore parametric spaces. It's really a tool to help you find configurations for a patch you have made, or for some artwork you're working on, or to play around a little bit and find a set of presets that really work for you. And once you have that, it gives you the ability to export all of that and put it in a different form, perhaps. But if you want to use it to perform live, you can also do it. And it allows you to make it more efficient by hiding everything that you don't need, because this is heavy to render. So you shouldn't play live with all these things on and the sliders moving and all that stuff. It's going to eat a lot of your memory. If you want to play it, you can hide things. And for example, I just want to expose the presets. And now it's super light. So, okay, that's the purpose of this tool, to explore and play with parametric spaces. And the way it works is basically you have an operator that you want to target. And here I created all the possible things that you can drag and drop here. So accepts all of these things. There are a couple exceptions that are not supported. And more than anything, they're not supported because I didn't encounter a reason why to support this. But for example, folder is totally feasible, object is totally feasible, Python as well, I think, file as well. But I don't know if I should put them here. If you think I should add support them, let me know. String menu, I never in my life used it. I always use menus, so I don't really know string menu why I should use this one. But yeah, that's why I didn't include it. And
so,
of course,
sorry,
the header.
Menus are not included?
Menus are, but not string menus.
Right, string menu. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the normal menu, but this one I never tend to use this one, so that's why I didn't bother to put it. But if people want it, of course I will add all of this if needed. This one, of course, not the header because that will be pointless. Okay. So now how to use this thing is I created here 2 presets for all these objects, and it's the same logic. So you can, when you click a preset, it will morph to that preset in a given time. The preset stores the time. So if you save this preset with a time of 1, then time you're gonna click it, it's gonna override this here. I'm gonna use the store time. So it's gonna override it to 1 because that's the preset time. If you use these controls here, it's gonna try to morph everything that is morphable in this global time. So this is kind of the global controls. The presets have their own controls, and you have also local controls that you see on this side here. Everything that is interpolatable or randomizable has its options for local randomization, for local morphing. If you expose this, you can rearrange things. You can rearrange this to a new range, of course. So 3. You can have a local time of change, and that overrides the global time if you tell it to. Each one of these can have its own curve, so they all are independent from each other, its own distribution.
Sorry, could we just have a look at those curves again, just for...
At the
curves, at the options of the curves.
Oh, yeah.
I just found that interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, thanks.
No problem. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, they are the interpolatable ones. The non-interpolatable ones don't have any of those options, of course, because they cannot do it. But they do have this option that Greg mentioned, that you can do start-end. And indeed, would be nice, maybe I add something here that you can do it in between as well. So if you notice, I'm going to trigger maybe the first preset and see what happens to those that have an end execution moment. So if I'm going to move now to preset 2, it waits until the end to change for those that have an end. And the ones that have a start, they right away change. So that's the mechanism. Now, you can also do lock presets. So if I want to do a random morph, this is the global control, has nothing to do with presets. This is just to randomize. If I randomize something and interpolate it, we'll use this time. So 5 seconds. It's going to change everything interpolatable in that time. But you can lock things you don't want to morph. So maybe I don't want to affect those 2. I just want to see what happens with the other ones. So they remain in place, and only the other ones are affected. And this is, of course, very handy when you're trying to find configurations that you like of some content you're working on. One more thing is that you can also do scripting here. So I have made a little script here that says print hello morph, hello TD Morph. And when I click on it, it executes it. And if I go to preset 2, it says goodbye. So the string is remembered inside of the parameter morpher, and you can add scripts by right-clicking here and say add script. So you have another script. It can do anything that you can do in Touch, so it can be any valid Python expression. One thing maybe to remember is that the place of execution of this is on the parent level of the parameter morpher. So you can say, for example, directly, you can say, pop tester, and it's going to reference this one, no problem. So I'm going to change maybe the, I don't know, I'm just going to pulse the pulse or something, right? Pulse. Pulse. So that's going to be fine because it's on this level and you can see it. In the past, I don't remember if I had the situation that this was actually on the inside of parameter morpher. I now made sure that it's on the outside, so you can see everything that the parameter morpher sees. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. To delete things, of course, there's delete stuff. And to create new presets, super easy as well. You have to use your Shift and Control keys. If you press Shift and left click, you can store a new preset here. Oh, and now it's not doing it. Of course. Let me see why is that. Died. Okay, it should store a preset if you do that. And if you Shift right click it, it should delete a preset. Something happened, I'm not sure what. Okay. You can also do Control and click on one of the existing presets, and it will overwrite the time that they have and do it in 1 second. And if you Control and what was it? Control and left click, it should jump. I think something happened with this and got broken. So let me see if the other one works.
I just as a note, I know we should go over some questions you have, because currently you answered all our questions, or not all of them, but a lot of them. Yet I know you might have some as well, and we kind of have half an hour left in total. So just want to let you know.
Let me just mention one quick thing. There's control signals that you can apply to TD Morph. So you have, if you connect to it in the inputs, you can connect MIDI and OSC and transport information. When you do that, 2 new icons will appear. So it's super easy to hook up, for example, a MIDI controller. This is the MIDI button, and it has auto-learning possibilities. So let's say I want to trigger this preset with my keyboard. I'm just going to enable this, right-click on it. Now it's in auto-learn mode. If I press one of my keys, now it will give you a little square telling me it's mapped. And now I can right-click on it. And now if I trigger that with my keyboard, it will just react to it. So in this way, you can map things. For example, I can move my keyboard, trigger it with my keyboard as you see now, and so on. And same for OSC. Okay, so now my questions. Let's do that.
Okay, wait, I do have one other comment too. In going through your videos, one thing that was really good is your treatment of not just time as seconds, but time as beats and bars and all that. So you can actually drive things with a music system with the varying beats per minute, for instance. So I mean, you just have to look at all the videos that he's posted to find that. But it's pretty remarkable connection between time as beats or time as seconds.
Oh yeah, indeed. So if you connect a transport or a beat chop, and I think also Ivan did a hookup with TD Ableton, that you can get the data from it. If you can connect any of that into the transport, you will get this BPM counter, and you can indeed sync it to different options. So if you have an LFO like this one, for example, now it's using internal clock. If you do manual, when you press here, it will sync it. Or you can do per beat, per bar, per 16ths, and it refers to these 3 indicators here. I must say these ones, specifically the transport, is still need to develop it further because it's a bit broken at the moment. So it's not working yet. In the beta I'm going to release, but it will be soon patched up, and yeah, you can do it.
Okay, great.
All right. So now let me see my questions. Yeah. So the first one I have is I spend a lot of energy optimizing the parameter morpher, but I don't know if what I did here is considered to be good practice. So let me show you. What I have is basically two types of UI elements, one that I call granular and one that is composite. And the granular is the most basic type of UI you can have. So directly it's just text or a button or things like that, or the OSC and MIDI listeners.
Can you turn on the viewers of all these nodes?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just pick them and...
But they don't show anything.
Nothing. Okay, they're empty. Okay.
And they have common custom parameters, just to understand that quickly, because there's a configured look to them sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. For example, the labels, they are just straight text, nothing fancy. Overlay is just one container. A button is just a button, but I added a couple of things that I needed to add to the TouchDesigner button. Mm-hmm. These are a bit more involved. So these have the curves to render. Cool. Distributions also, it's just some shader and a couple of little icons.
Yeah, and I might say a lot of your UI is based on widgets, but customized widgets and sometimes your homemade widgets?
Exactly, yeah. I used a lot of the widget principle, but I basically deleted everything and just left the super basic stuff that I needed. Mm-hmm. This is the OSC, for example, listener. Some of them have classes, some of them, but basically I consider all of them to be basic in the sense that there's nothing inside of them that needs to be cloned. They are on themselves clonable totally. So they go into the composite ones, for example. Now these are involved objects, and all of them have the same properties. Let me see if you can see this. Yeah, this you can see, I think. And all of them have these properties of configuration and look. And these are all based on widgets, but like I said, I basically deleted pretty much everything inside the widgets and just kept what I really strictly needed. And these use clones of those granular. So, okay, they have, all of these are clones, and every one of these have this similar structure. For example, this one also clones for 3 different things, etc. The slider clones from 4 different things that are coming from that granular. But then what I do is when I have the elements, I have these complex objects. This one clones from this UI, which is it takes different stuff. All of them are cloned except for the parameters with this flag and the storage. And inside of this, I still do, this is a sub-clone of the clone. So this clone is a clone of that granular. So that's how it's referenced here. The clone master is the granular. And this one is a clone of the composite. And this one itself is a clone of this one. So is that a good way to do it?
The answer is yes. I think you're going to like our new system of cloning that we've been developing for a couple of years, but it'll come out shortly, I guess, in the next series. But we tried to address a bunch of issues regarding cloning that didn't allow for easy kind of embedded clones inside clones. What you're seeing a lot in and I'm sure what you're experiencing a lot is the top level of a component generally isn't passed down to the clones. You know, the top level parameters. Yeah. They're kind of like untouchable, like they're free running kind of thing. In the new cloning system, you have the option of saying everything at the top level is cloned as well as the stuff inside it.
That's great.
Except for immune stuff, and you can just pick 1 or 2 parameters and say these ones are going to be specific to every clone that it appears in, and the rest of the parameters are going to be copies. So it's really great it's much improved way to manage clones.
Yeah.
The same thing applies to for if you have a master component, and inside the master you might have something that you have to clone, that you have to immune somewhere, but you have to immune everything on that node on the inside, which is kind of a drag, because you may only want to make one parameter immune, like you might just make one color. We don't want to affect one color or something. And so now you can make individual parameters immune, as opposed to the whole node's parameters. So I think that'll kind of make your customization of nodes inside nodes. The other thing is we've done away with the immune flags on the left, which is I noticed you had lots of immune flags like there, those things. So those things over on the left, the orange immune flags, those are now parameters. So you can actually control that a lot more visibly. Also, those things right now, we've replaced that with a box on the left side of the node, which indicates whether the node is a clone or a master or a clone inside a master or whatever. So it's at a glance you can see who are the masters, who are the clones. And when you click on that icon on the left, you actually get info about that component. Like if it's a clone, what its master is. If it's a master, it's a list of all the clones of it.
Amazing, yeah.
And so on. So we've really tried to address, first of all, visibility of it all. Oh yeah, also the info button for cloning is also up in the parameter dialog at the top right, alongside the I button, the info button. There's also another. There's a thing that you can click and just get info about cloning. So we go a bit further. Yeah, so that's great too. But also through some effort from Jared and Ivan to try and make things more embeddable and customizable, we have this idea of remastering. So any parameter that's kind of deep inside, like if it's one level down and there's 3 levels inside, anything that you remaster, any parameter you remaster at a level down gets passed to all of its clones in the same family. Anyways, it's long. It's hard to describe in words. It's quite difficult to even explain graphically. So that's the thing we're trying to accomplish, is come up with a better way of visualizing what your clone hierarchy is, and controlling it and overriding it and making it more inheritable.
Oh man, that's fantastic. That's great. Yeah.
So you're doing things in the right direction, and it's I think Ivan's comment was, this is exactly the design pattern we are moving towards in TouchDesigner. I feel seen.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's good. So I think the idea is, hold tight, and once this stuff gets out to you, you'll be able to start converting things over. But to struggle with it the way it is now, because you're doing quite complex systems based on the hierarchies of clones.
It makes sense to work this way. Just as a side note, this whole setup here that we're driving the show with works on the same principle: clones inside clones inside clones, so that you can work on a granular part on each one. Which
was that using the new cloning, Marcus?
No, not yet. I haven't trusted it.
Converted over.
Yeah, this is really great news. I think because the cloning part is probably the thing I had to think the most about to optimize things.
Yeah.
So that makes it much easier, because in some cases, in most cases, actually don't need the clone. And was one of my questions. It's just because, for example, this needs to have its own storage. I don't know. The only way I found to do this is by doing that.
Yeah.
But everything else could be perfectly cloned. So
yeah, another question you had is how do you make sure the storage inside a component gets protected when you're cloning? And there's one of the node flags on any node actually where you can protect the data of that node, but everything else is clonable. When I say protect the data, if you have a table which is data that you want to protect, or if you've locked a node, or if you have storage in a node, and you don't want that's unique data for the for that one component, then you can just protect the data, or you can protect the wiring, or you can protect. There's a flag for making sure that a node inside a clone is undeletable, so you can just add new stuff into a component.
Oh yeah.
And make it not deletable. So that's all controlled with parameters, whereas before it's done with those funky flags.
Yeah, excellent, amazing.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, one question that I have that is really, really important, and we have a lot of debates about this also with Tim and Roy, for example, is this question of performance when using storage. How does it compare to other methods, like referencing tables and operators? And the main question comes because when the system starts to become really big, we have, for example, deeply dependable objects, and something requests data from that object. Does that mean that every single place that has reference to that object would also cook or not? And if that's the case, then from a purely performance perspective, what would be the best way to go about?
Well, I have answer from Ivan here on that. He says storage is a similar speed to referencing tables and operators. Just though large and deeply nested dictionaries take a little more time than a flat table. So I don't know, it's comparable, but he also says requesting data from deeply dependable objects never causes cooks. Changing data in deeply dependable objects only cooks when necessary. So he had an example where that's the case. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but Marcus, I don't know if you have any interpretation or understanding of using dictionaries as they get larger and larger, they get harder and harder to update and or refer to, or I think that's the question that Darian has.
Yeah, parsing through it gets eventually slow as well. Yeah. That's no, I can only what Ivan said basically. I don't have.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. So, yeah, should go into your next question.
Yeah, I mean this answers partially, but yeah, still is a bit obscure. So maybe later we can figure it out more in depth with a patch or something.
Yeah, with some examples and stuff like that, we should screen share and go through some cases. And
awesome.
There's also perhaps there's a user here on, I'm not sure, Unveil. He's, for example, also asking why using storage and not text with attributes. I saw it load faster and import than a fetch. So he's. It sounds like that he's using a text file essentially instead of. But I'm not quite sure if I interpret that correctly and how he would do that.
Yeah,
text.
But text with attributes.
Maybe there could be more. Maybe he will write a little bit more in the comments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, next question.
Yeah.
Sorry, we are running out of time here.
Okay. Let me see.
Keep going. Yep.
Okay, you already answered the next one, which was about cloning again. The same one as well. There's this thing sometimes when I use reference to cloned elements that some parameters do not load or are not set properly. and it feels to me like it's some order of execution issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's an enforcement of a particular order in TD that we should know of, so that we can account for that, or is not really.
Well, I think it'll be a fresh situation when we get to the new cloning, because there are cooking issues in the older system that where you expect things to get updated and they aren't.
Yeah.
And so we're scrubbing through many cases with the new cloning of things updating and properly updating when you start up a TOE file again, or delete things or add things and stuff. So we're trying to keep things consistent so you don't have to think about order of execution when it comes to cloning.
All right, great.
So
yeah,
I did
stand by, I guess, is the question.
I did just yesterday. I was talking with Wieland, and he sometimes, for complex systems, he's making use of, for example, also a timer or something like this to execute things one after the other to have more control over things. Again, also in this setup here that I'm driving, I do it similar. I put all the functions into a list and then work through them one by one to have control over the execution.
The order in which things update. Yeah. Right. So you'll build a list of actions to take, and then you execute the list of actions to take.
Yeah.
In the order of the list. Yeah. So that way you control it as well. And again, you can use the timer shop to. Every segment can be delayed by a frame or a couple of frames to do things certain order if you have to. But that's kind of a hack. We're trying to eliminate the need for doing stuff like that.
Absolutely, it comes from a little bit of distrust. So it shouldn't be this way, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Then let me see, what was the question? This was already answered as well. Oh yeah, I have a situation here with I made this little library here, presets, the patterns library. And I cannot serialize that library, or I cannot make it deeply dependable. So I was wondering what could be a good alternative to things that cannot be made to be dependable.
Phew. How does that look like?
Oh yeah, let me see. See where it is. Patterns. Your patterns. UIs. Where is my library? It's up there. Patterns, yeah. Okay, so I have this this pattern class. It basically creates an object, which is a pattern, and then I have this other class that does the pattern type that it creates. But what it gives me, of course, it's basically a lazy evaluation operator. But I cannot, whenever I try to make this dependable, because I need to store the pattern type for the current parameter I'm using, then I cannot do it. It says I cannot serialize that object. And I was thinking of a solution, for example, using Pickle or something like that. But that creates extra files. I don't want to do that. And I was thinking, what could be a better way?
It is actually exactly what Ivan also suggested. You can try Python's pickling features if you want a more compressed way, but the results are difficult to debug. He says the most sanity-preserving option would be JSON, saving to JSON and loading from there. But you want fully dependable. Or, I mean, that would be then fully dependable, I guess. But yeah, you would have to convert it into a... Doesn't suit your purpose, I guess, fully.
No, and I guess I'll need to find a different way to do it then. So not using directly the object from the pattern library, but doing a workaround. But that's okay.
Are those patterns, by the way, this is your pattern? Oh, that's the pattern generator, right? That's the sequence, like building up those sequences. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That would be a nice
okay.
chop, by the way. We should just make it a chop.
That's true,
like a sequencer job? Or
we had a DAT that did that a little bit, right? At some point? For the timeline, to generate the ticks on the timeline?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not quite in that direction, but similar. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a fun thing to maybe I'll do that one day. It's actually all the idea is taken from a super collider.
Yeah, that's right. So that generates, when you say, pattern stuff like that, it's a sequence of changes over time that you.
Yeah, it's basically like this thing that you can have a sequence, and the sequence reacts to timers. So if you see now this slider, it's just doing the sequence over and over, 0.25, 0.5, 0.11 on this time. So if I make it maybe faster, now you can see it. And you can have different behaviors, of course, for that, and that's quite nice to build. To build some things.
Yep. Yeah, it's great to see some influence from Super Collider. You're one of your earlier loves.
Early tools.
Still in love with it. Still in love with
probably.
it. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much all the questions, all the very important questions I had. I don't see any other thing that you haven't answered, actually.
This is more a question that I come across when looking at these really well-working systems. I'm sometimes afraid that when you control the system, I'm not afraid of it, that's the wrong word, but that your parameters are changing and you don't necessarily know where they are changing from. Like you don't have a backward reference. But did you ever wish for a functionality that would make that differently possible, so that there is a tie, you would know the connection? Oh, this parameter is actually somehow referenced in TD Morph from the parameter side.
I guess that would be handy in some cases, indeed. I don't encounter that to be an issue myself, but yeah, why not? Sounds like a nice feature to have, at least to see. You mean to see, for example, here and read somewhere that is hooked to something else, right?
Yeah, for the system builder, usually it doesn't present a problem because you know what you did. For people outside that, it might be a little bit more mysterious.
Indeed,
so Marcus, should we pull up the TD Morph community page so people can see where a lot of the great videos are from TD Morph 2?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get that. And what's your release date?
I should mention that it's already online, the current version. I want to ask the community also, of course, to play around with it. It's going to break. I'm sure there's a lot of bugs there that I didn't find. And you can download it on my GitHub. I can put the link here.
Yeah. I broke it.
Darian.
No.
What'd you break?
I broke the...
You broke Darian?
I broke Darian. 1 second. I'll bring you back.
I'm going.
Okay, Darian.
Okay.
No, Darian is still gone. What the hell?
Well, just go to.
There we go.
Yeah, just go to our website and type in TD Morph, and you'll see the page that Marcus has up there on the left now. And so there are 12 videos, and they're awesome. Use them as you're using. Look at them while you're using using TD Morph, and look at the first.
And you have all weekend to do it.
You have all weekend to do it, and at some point there will be a 3.0 update, so that's cool. Have you been getting much input from others using TD Morph, or suggestions from them about what to do?
Yeah.
Stuff like that?
I must say I feel quite guilty because I got a lot of people asking me when is the release and they want to use it but it's broken, and I'm really bad keeping keeping maintaining the thing. But now I decided, okay, and if you can show my screen, I put here now the GitHub address. It's already live, so you can go here and download the 3 different objects I showed. You can play with them, and please. Like you have been doing, the community has been amazing. They always suggest things and send some reports. Please keep doing that. The issue tracker is there in the GitHub. Just create an issue if you have a suggestion or if you find a bug, and I'll try to fix it much better than I have done with TD Morph 2, which has taken me too long, but I'll be more consistent, I promise.
Great. So yeah, I want to thank you for all the stuff you've done for the community, Darian. It's really awesome. Super appreciated.
Super content.
Thank you. Thanks to you for this epic software. It's my favorite software. So yeah.
And in just 6 years. So let's see what happens this year.
Let's see what happens.
So we normally have a section on community announcements, and let's see, there aren't too many announcements this time. There are a couple of workshops coming up. Volumetrics with Ray TK for intermediate with Tommy Etkin. And that's in person and online, I believe. March 12th. And then we have Stanislav Glasov, Houdini to TouchDesigner Terrain Pipeline for intermediate.
Terrain.
And that, that's awesome. April 8th to the 5th. Maybe that's wrong, but anyway. And definitely, if you have an event coming up or a workshop, or please remember to post in community, because that's a key way to let people know that it's going on, and we're always really happy to see it there. Exactly. Anybody have any other announcements? No.
Okay. Well, there's at the end of the month, there's 2 things coming up again, which might be interesting, right? There's the Berlin Roundtable, as usual, happening on the 24th, right. I believe.
Correct.
And 23rd. It's always on Thursday, I think. And Hackspace is happening the Saturday after, right? 25th.
Yeah, the 25th.
Yeah.
And the topic is VST plugins. A couple of people who've been using TouchDesigner for the VST job, and Jared Smith will be on as well, showing his POV, because he was one of the developers of all the VST job and components around it. So that's good. That'll be on the 25th of this month, this Saturday.
And
musicbackspace.com.
One last one that comes to mind is again through the Node Institute. Andre Yamkovoy is doing a talk on his work. I think it's going to be a lot of work in the dome. I don't have it in front of me, but if you go to the Node Institute, you'll find it, and I'd highly recommend that one too. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Great to see you in the chat and your questions and comments. We're back.
Yeah.
We're back with a new look.
And if you want to join us on InSession, Marcus, where do they go?
Oh, right. Yeah, they go to, let me go there. Maybe the URL is updating this time. It's just derivative.ca/InSession. It doesn't update. I've got work to do. Anyway, derivative.ca/InSession.
Don't feel bad.
And there you can find the all the rules, so to speak, rules on how to get on
big
here.
Rules.
Yeah, strict rules, very strict. Yeah, thanks for being here, Darian. That was really nice to see this, and amazing update. And thanks everybody for watching.
And have a good weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the invite, and have a great one too.
Okay.
We'll see you
Bye
soon
now.
again.
See
Stay on,
you next
Darian.
time.
We'll just say goodbye
All
to
right.
everybody else. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.